All right, we're live. Hi, Carlos. Good morning. Welcome
Good
to
morning,
the show.
Margaret. How are you today?
I am pretty good. It was kind of hot last night, so I was tossing and turning a little bit, and the dogs have decided to sleep with me now, and that's becoming a little bit cramped because I got like two dogs now on the bed instead of one. So yeah, I'm trying to get used to that.
Good morning, everybody. We are here in Southern California, beautiful Southern California, sunny out there today. Another beautiful summer day. So just enjoying. I actually went for coffee early this morning and just enjoy the walk. It was just so nice. So now I got me a second cup of coffee. I need
Yeah.
it. Doing all the stuff that's happening right now, all the stuff that work that we're doing. You got to stay hydrated, but you got to stay coffeeed up, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't drink coffee because I can't sleep at night. I'm a little too hyper on my own. My hair is a little messy. But yeah, so I don't drink coffee. But this beautiful weather is a little bit of a bittersweet thing because even though it's nice and warm and we don't have a lot of humidity, we're also in the middle of a drought, a bad drought. So we have a lot to talk about in that regard. And so why don't we get started with the show, Carlos?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, well, hi everyone. Welcome. You're watching Stand Up Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. We simulcast on Facebook and YouTube, so be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, follow us, and share us with all your friends, your neighbors, the paramedics, whoever. Just let them know that we're here every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. We broadcast primarily on the Bernie Sanders Brigade page and also on Insight Out News on YouTube. I'm Marco Pius, your co-host, and over to this side of me is Carlos Maruquin, who is busy sharing our live stream across many channels on Facebook, and he will return to us shortly. We don't have a guest today, but we will have a guest next week and definitely the week after that. So please stay with us because we really love to interview people who are in the movement, who are doing great work. But today we're really going to touch on some big issues related to what's going on with the climate and all the droughts that we're having, fires. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Derek Chauvin case, what happened in Florida, and try to tie it in with some things going on in California with the sheriff's department here. And I think, yeah, we're going to have a pretty interesting show as soon as we get Carlos back. So I hope everyone is doing pretty good this morning. I know it's kind of humid in some parts of the country and dry in other parts, but I'm hoping that everyone is having a very happy and safe weekend. I know we are also dealing with the pandemic, and the Delta variant is still out there. So if you haven't been vaccinated yet, please get vaccinated because right now the numbers are showing that the people who are dying from the coronavirus, from COVID-19 right now, are the unvaccinated. So really don't be afraid. I've been vaccinated, Carlos has been vaccinated, and we're still here. We're still the same people. So don't worry, there's no microchips. Bill Gates hasn't stuck a microchip in the vaccine to control your brain. You're okay. You'll be okay. Carlos, welcome back.
Yes. Well, so good to be here. Let me adjust my volume here. But look, there's a lot of stuff happening. Of course, some of the top stories here that we want to be able to talk to you about. But first and foremost, we want to give our condolences to the families over in Miami, where we had a condominium that actually collapsed, partially collapsed. So far, what we know is there are 9 dead and 156 people missing. It's a tragic thing that has happened, but apparently that building had been in need of repairs. The last report that I read, there were somewhere around $9 million in repairs that it needed, um, along with all the problematic things that have been recorded regarding issues on the building in itself. But yeah, there is more to this on that, and this has caused for some of the critics to come forth and talk about some of the issues that relating to all this development, and sometimes the rush that developers have in building this massive structures, cutting corners, etc., or sometimes the locations where they are building these buildings. Um, as we know that more than ever, we are seeing a lot of developments going up, and it's concerning to see that the fast pace that that these buildings are being built, let alone that we know that they're always looking to cut corners. And once these buildings are built, it requires maintenance. And we know that it's slumlords and these owners don't like to put money into repairs. All these things have consequences. The same could be said about the infrastructure in our highways and bridges. If you don't pay attention to them, if you don't uh, keep the maintenance on them, what we see is the collapse of these buildings.
Yes, Carlos, and it's really insane. When I saw like a satellite, top-down aerial view of where this building is located, it's like within 100 feet or so of the shore. I mean, it's like right on the shore. I was really surprised to see a building of this magnitude built on sand, practically on sand, because there's so much danger involved with building a structure along the coast like that. In fact, most of the time what you see that close to the ocean is a structure to protect buildings behind that structure, like a wall, like a seawall, for example. Uh, there's there's so many problems, there's so many things that can go wrong, and structural engineers really have to take this seriously. There's like an Army Corps of Engineer book that's like several volumes wide, uh, that tells you how to make the right calculations in order to avoid something like this. This is a complete structural failure. This whole thing needs to be demolished or rebuilt. I mean, I think it just needs to go away. But it begs a bigger question, because for engineers, for civil engineers, they know that you're playing a dangerous game by building so close to the coast like this, because of erosion, because of rising sea levels. There's so many factors that go into destabilizing the foundation of a building like this. So we have to ask the question of who's regulating the building on the shores, right? That's the government, the local government, the city officials. There's an absolute neglect of regulation and safety here. And it's not just the developers themselves, but it's also people, the politicians, who are allowing developers to build like this. And I think Florida government is not too into regulation, it seems, and we're going to see more problems like this. And it's not only unfortunate, it's horrifying, because so many people, so many lives have been potentially lost here, and this is a preventable tragedy. And I suspect that we will see more of this, because Carlos and our audience, the Army Corps of Engineers estimated that we need $4.7 trillion of money to put into rebuilding our infrastructure across the country. We have an infrastructure bill that was like about under $2 trillion. And the reconciliation, the bipartisan bill, is like $570 million, like less than $600 million. I
It is with
mean, what are we doing here? We are literally sending ourselves off a cliff. Our government is so disconnected from
that.
the physical reality.
Yeah, I mean, look at the realities is that they constantly cutting corners. They don't put the amount of money and resources that is needed to make sure that this public and sometimes private buildings are done correctly. The fact of the matter is, here in Los Angeles, just in Los Angeles, when then city councilman Eric Garcetti, now mayor, uh, they proposed this huge building, this apartment building right on Hollywood and Highland, excuse me, Hollywood and Vine Street, on top of a earthquake fault line, you know, and they pushed on it and they built it. And so, these are the things that it don't make sense. And beautification is one thing, but public safety is another. Being able to make money, building whatever is one thing, but public safety is another. So yes, Margaret, I see that happening. Very disappointed in the Biden administration. They call it a bipartisan, bill that pretty much cut down what is needed. We need over $4 trillion in infrastructure, and what they got is again a minute number just to pacify the Republican Party. So if we have a bad Biden today, that's probably what it is. It's like it is insanity, Margaret.
Yeah, I agree. And let me just put the bad Biden. That's a bad Biden, very bad Biden, failing on infrastructure. But Carlos, part of the problem I think here is something called financialization, which is when the finance sector becomes a dominant part in our economy, and we're seeing that, and we're seeing a lot of investors and banks going into neighborhoods, buying up homes, for example, like huge blocks of single-family homes, even pension funds. The California retirement fund is also guilty of doing this. They're not doing it in the state of California, but they're going and they're investing in huge blocks of single family homes in other states. So maybe we won't call them out for doing that, but I'm calling them out for doing that right now. And the problem is that what they're trying to do is to create wealth without actually producing anything new. So you can just you can buy up land and then rent it out to people, to businesses, whatever, and you create a source of income without actually producing anything. And that is essentially what has happened to our economy here in the United States. It's become financialized, and it's a danger to working people, to middle class people, to unhoused people, whatever. It's a danger to 99% of people in this country, because it doesn't give anything back to the real economy. It doesn't give anything back to workers. It doesn't improve the living wage. It does not encourage innovation. And so this financialization is harming us across the board. So that's why we're seeing things like this happen, I think, and that's why we're seeing a failure on the behalf of our politicians to invest in our infrastructure, because it's not profitable. It's not as profitable as just quickly building these massive units in which you can just make profit off of the rent itself. So we have a serious problem, and it really goes back to how our economy works now. And it's unfortunate, Carlos, because it affects everything. It affects how we deal with climate change too.
Yeah. So the interesting thing that's happening now in Miami on the building, there are some sisters buildings right next to these ones that were built by the same contractor using the same materials. And now all these people that live in all these units, along with other units that they built in other areas, are being questioned, are being looked at, because the questions arise as, did these people actually cut corners? Did they use materials they shouldn't have been using? We know that we know that building this kind of structures on the sand is some of the most dangerous things. We have
Right.
liquefaction, right? Maybe you
Right.
could add a little bit on that, Margaret, because I know that you took you're an engineer as well.
Yeah, and I actually, my robotics research before I switched to doing climate change and water resources, I did a lot of research in sand. So sand is called a granular media, which is that it's made up of a lot of individual particles, and it makes this, a larger body. But sand is unique because it shares properties that are like solids and liquids. So there's a certain amount of instability built into it in which you can have a solid foundation that can quickly turn into a liquid foundation and cause slippage. And that we don't really know, I don't really know what happened, and I think it's going to take a big investigation. But slippage can happen. I did see something about that this building has been sinking for a while, and that's understandable when you're building on something that can also liquefy itself just as a dry medium, not even talking about putting water into the mix, just saying like this is a property of the medium that you're building on, that it can liquefy itself, it can act like liquid, and you can sink into it. So there's huge dangers here. And I like I said, when I saw the aerial, I was really shocked to see how close this was to the shore, to the water itself. It's just
Right.
an absolute disaster just waiting to happen.
And in other news, I know that we can talk a lot about this, but we heard the coming back from the judge, the sentence
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
Derek Chauvin. Uh, Talk a little bit about that. I think we understand now that this is brought some form of relief to the family, but it was the usually the kind of sentence that he would get for something like this was 10 years. He got 22 and
Mm-hmm.
a half years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this was the right thing to do. I think the judge was very impartial in his delivery and did the right thing. We need justice. This is a long time coming for the Black community, for the Brown community, uh, that for so long police officers have just gone murdering innocent people for fun, for racism, because they're racist, out of white supremacy, lynching Black people endlessly. I mean, this is really a big shift, and I'm really happy to see. I hope it creates a precedent for the future, and that we see more of these awful police officers arrested and tried and convicted, most importantly, for their actions, because
It,
it's an absolute crime.
Yeah, well, it's all about accountability. We all are accountable to in our jobs. At least most of us think we are. But for far too long, a lot of police officers, dirty police officers, abusive police officers, have hidden behind the badge and have terrorized communities. And I think that more and more we are seeing now. A pushback, and now even judges, even some chief police officers are fed up because it damages the credibility of all police officers. So moving alongside that, we have a very interesting development here in Southern California, in the West Coast at Venice Beach,
Mm-hmm.
which we talked a little bit before in other shows. But as you know, California is one of the biggest unhoused populations that we have in the country, especially here in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the capital of homelessness in the United States. So it's not we are not surprised that there's a lot of people camping out at the beach. In this particular case, at Venice Beach. And what we have, backtracking a little bit, we had a sheriff by the name of Alex Villanueva that was elected the last time come around to for by progressives. Actually, progressives pushed him into this position that he's at, but he has turned out to be one of the biggest failures that we have seen in modern history when it comes to politics. It's like this guy is a massive failure. His department is full of corruption. There are gangs within the sheriff's department. This has come out to light. He's overcharging cities for services that he has never rendered, and there's scandal after scandal, and he's up for re-election in 2022. So obviously he needed something that will put him back into some kind of standing so that he can get reelected. So it is unfortunate, it is sad, and it is sickening at the same time that Sheriff Alex Villanueva is using the unhoused population to try to save his political career. And that's all this is. It's a political stunt. He has announced, he made several announcements. He held a press conference that he is moving the sheriff's department. He's mobilizing his department to remove the people from the beach. Now we understand that nobody wants to see tents out there. Nobody wants to see people living on the streets. Nobody wants to see people living at the beach. Nobody wants to see that. However, there are steps being taken by the city of Los Angeles, although they are very slow and small. But there are things in motion already. I know that the city council bonding have been working, to trying to solve this problem at the beach, and he has been highly criticized by the NIMBYs, but those people that don't like to see the unhoused people living in any streets, particularly in front of their streets. So these people have been really pressuring politicians, and I'm not trying to defend Councilman Bonning, but I've been following his work, particularly with the unhoused population, and yes, I know that it's a tough situation because more and more people are being added to the numbers of the unhoused. So what happened here is we had the sheriffs Villanueva that took up a political opportunity to use the unhoused population to brand himself as a hero by saying the things that a lot of the NIMBYs, a lot of the people that don't like to see the unhoused in front of their streets or their businesses, to pretty much take the opportunity and put himself as a hero by saying, I'm going to remove this. The city has been a failure. I'm going to remove the unhoused people from Venice Beach. Margot, this is the danger, that he has no plan. And if we don't pay attention, we'll fall for those tricks. And he's using exactly the same things that Donald Trump used. He will go to the bottom of the bottom, and he will use things that emotionally, stir up passions in the people. And of course, the unhoused people is one of those issues that people don't want to see the unhoused living on the streets. So that's what he's tapping into. That's what he's stirring. But the fact is that he has no plan. And if anything, I've been doing a lot of interviews with the media, and this has been my response. The LA Sheriff's Alex Villanueva was elected to go and clean up the sheriff's department. He has failed to do that miserably, massively. He's failed to address the issues with his own department, but yet he wants to take a different role that he's not qualified to take on, and that is the unhoused. He's not trained to do that. And again, he has no resources, he has no plan, he has no new housing. So all he's doing is using this as a political stunt.
Yeah, and I think this ties in pretty well to just this idea of violence that these police departments, the sheriff's departments, the law enforcement enacts on a day-to-day basis in this country, and that this act of violence is institutionalized in these enforcement agencies. Targeting and criminalizing innocent, unhoused people is an act of violence against them, because you're putting them in a high risk situation where they can lose their life, they can die. And that is inhumane. It's a crime against humanity. And I think ultimately that these institutions are pretty much pretty corrupt down to the essence of what they are. and they need to be changed or replaced, or money needs to be diverted to other resources that can do the necessary job. We don't need police officers, we don't need sheriff's departments going out there and doing social services. They should not be the ones going out to the parks and interacting with the unhoused. We should be sending social workers, we should be sending doctors and nurses, or EMTs. We should be sending people who can help them with whatever issues that they're dealing with, whether it's psychological or health or medical or whatever. What do they need? We should be providing those services for them. Why do we put so much money into our police departments just so that they can kill people,
Right.
or put them in danger?
So I have been spending some time over at Venice Beach monitoring the situation out there. Actually, I'm going there tonight. I will be with some of the grassroots groups out there uh, in Venice Beach. But Margaret, the fact is that these police officers are not trained to handle these kind of situations. 90% of the unhoused population suffers from some form of mental illness, and the consequences due to many different reasons. But the consequences of them moving such a large amount of police officers on the ground over there, by the way, I'm going to be posting some pictures of the sheriff's department out there, but it's grotesque because these people come fully armed, all kinds of weapons. It looks like an army out there. They got all this gear and stuff, and it's all about intimidating, the unhoused population. And it's sickening and it's sad because these people are traumatized enough already for Sheriff Alex Villanueva, to do this. He said that he's moving with compassion, but there is no compassion in this kind of in his thinking and mentality, and in the actions that he's taking. We deplore that. We actually condemn those actions by him, because it leads to furthering the harm to the unhoused population.
Carlos, one thing that stands out to me is that the police department, the sheriff's department, they're not the elected officials, right? This is not their job. So what is the city council saying? Are they saying anything? It seems that they're just letting the sheriff's department move in and do their job.
No, I think that in part, again, Alex Villanueva, Sheriff Alex Villanueva, has been fighting with his bosses, which is the LA County supervisors. He, upon taking office, he immediately reinstated some police officers that had been fired or demoted, and he immediately, his friends, he brought them back up, and that set the tone for what's to happen during his administration, during his time as a sheriff. So it's been one thing after the other with him. So he's being, he has no friends, no political friends, because everybody's against him, because of the bad moves that he has made, and constantly doing things that are detrimental to the city of Los Angeles, and wasting taxpayers' money. So I talked to some of the people that work with county supervisors, and I tell you, they're very disappointed. They're concerned about his intentions and actions, but everybody sees right through him that this is a PR political stunt that he has created. He's magnifying every time City Councilman Bonning, say something, he comes right back and he posts things on social media, and
Yeah.
constantly trying to make himself look like a hero, like everybody else is not doing their jobs. I can see if he was doing his job. I can see if he was doing that. But when he's a failure himself, he's in no position to be able to point the finger to anybody. He's calling. I know that Councilman Bonning made some statements recently about a plan that he's got, and immediately Alex Villanueva came back and said that this was a PR stunt by Councilman Bonning. Well, he's doing the same
Yeah.
thing, if not worse.
Yeah.
So it's a circus, if you will. But my hope is that people pay attention and they see right through what he's saying and ask the hard questions. Does he has a unique plan that no one else has, and that's what he's operating on, or is he just offering more of the same, perhaps even more empty, because he has no tap to this kind of resources that other people have? So I just hope that people pay attention, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that he's not reelected.
Yeah, well, he definitely sounds like he's taking a page out of the Donald Trump playbook in this case, and not to mention that when it came down to enforcing the mask mandate in LA County, he opposed it. He said that no, we're not gonna really fine anyone. We're just gonna let people use the honor system. And I think that says a lot about what he really thinks about what's going on in this country and where his alliances are. I think he's very much Donald Trump and
Well,
is acting like a Donald Trump.
all his followers, all the people that are supporting him right now are Donald Trump people, are Republicans. Are business people that their only interest is in themselves, in profits. You
Mhm.
know, that's the people that are supporting him, and he went from one extreme to the other, or from one side to the other, pretty much. But Marco, there's so many things that are happening around the city. Food insecurity is another one. There's many people out there that are suffering, are having a hard time. And as you know, uh, we work. I work with Urban Partners Los Angeles, that has been providing resources for the people, food, particular groceries, to families. And during the pandemic, the situation got even worse. Urban Partners Los Angeles was founded over 20 years ago, right after the LA riots, and by the founder, Rochelle Macadam, and a lovely woman. She's 90 years old, and she's a strong-willed woman. She's a very powerful woman. I love her. And look, Urban Partners has been serving the community, but we saw an increase. We saw an increase on the need of people that needed assistance with food. I'm not surprised, because when we see wages being frozen, when you see cost of living continue to go straight up, when we see the cost of housing, you know, medication, all these things, people have little left for food. We
Yes.
know that is a problem also with students. It's a lot of students that go hungry as well. There are many children that go to sleep hungry in the United States. So food insecurity is very real. It affects millions of people, and we may end up seeing even more on this. And one of my concerns that I have been really monitoring is the situation with water in California, and because that affects the products that are planted here in our farms in California. We are a large economy that produces a lot of the goods that people enjoy on their tables. So there's concerns right now, but this problem is not getting better; it's getting worse. Food
Yeah,
insecurity.
Carla. Yeah, food insecurity, and that directly ties into the to having a drought, have lack of water, because uh, we need water to grow our food. And if we don't have that water, if we deplete our aquifers, if we don't have enough rain or snow on the mountains, we cannot grow food. So we are increasing our food insecurity, not just for people who are unhoused, but for everyone. And that also means that prices will go up. And that's also bad for anyone who lives on a fixed income, right? Wages are stagnated. So, and I think people are seeing that, like that, for example, restaurant prices are becoming higher right now because there's a lot of demand, I guess, for it, but there is pretty much fairly high inflation on wholesale prices. So not so much when you go to the grocery store, but like wholesale prices for eggs or poultry or whatever, those are going up like 11%, 60% over the previous year. So and so what happens, the restaurants, they buy wholesale, they're paying more, well, they pass down that increase down to the consumer, to the restaurant goer. And if you don't have the ability to cook your own food and you're just living off of buying fast food, that's going to mean an increase in the food that you're purchasing. So yeah, it's a big problem, and climate change is contributing to this, because climate change only exacerbates already existing problems in the system. And right now we have what is looking to be one of the worst droughts in the West. And there's a lot of statistics in here about just how bad it's going to be. I mean, like here last year, the drought cost $4.5 billion. And then the added wildfires, which was a record last year as well, added an additional $16.5 billion. I mean, and right now we're seeing temperatures that are extraordinarily high for this time of year, and the dryness that is there. So we are going into a summer already very hot, only with the expectation that it's going to get hotter and drier. And we are already seeing fires happening. And Carlos, but the thing is, it's not just happening here in the United States, right? And it's not just happening in the West. There's also a drought going on in Minnesota. I mean, the Great Lakes, like that land of thousand lakes, they're having a drought, 75% of the state critically dry. And the Midwestern region is home to our biggest aquifers, and we have a lot of agriculture produced there out as well. And they were already having a problem with groundwater depletion, which means like the water that exists below the surface, that takes hundreds to thousands of years to replenish. The water levels in these aquifers are being depleted at a fairly rapid rate because of livestock, because of overuse, because of monoculture farming. Like the whole entire system needs to change. And we're hitting a critical point, and everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but like people who understand the situation are just kind of sitting back and saying, well, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we're about to hit a point, a tipping point in our ability to feed ourselves as well, if we don't do anything about climate change. But okay, so it's like I said, it's not just the West, it's not just Minnesota, but it's also Madagascar is having a major drought that's pushing 400,000 people towards starvation. We have to consider the effects of what we do in the rich countries like the United States, Europe, China, these major powers, Russia. The actions that are being taken in these parts of the world are affecting other parts of the world too. The things that we've done in our country with this massive like consumer society, with the financialization, with the oil companies, this massive profit driven society that we live in, we are driving hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people towards starvation around the world. And this is all because of what's happening with climate change and the drought. So we are feeling it here in the United States. We're starting to feel it, but the South is feeling it even worse, and they've been feeling it for a while. So Carlos, I'm very worried about our future, but I think we have to face the reality that we are doing serious damage. And once we face that reality, I think we can move forward and actually do something about it.
Right. The interesting thing when you brought up Minnesota is that out there right now we have Native Americans fighting against a pipeline that is being built that also has potential to contaminate the waters out there. And similar to the North Dakota pipeline type of thing. So we have a resistance that's taking place, and we are hoping to be able to have someone from Line 3 resistance with us soon. We have been monitoring the situation out there, but we've seen that there continue to be a push for this kind of energy to be built, and extraction of oil, and using pipelines and all that. But what came to mind, as we are monitoring all these issues, including the water situation, is that if there's any pipeline that we need to build, is a water pipeline.
Yeah, right.
We hope that somebody, their little bulb lights up, and that they start moving, quickly, to find solutions to the water problems that we are seeing right now. Because the further we go down without action, without taking measures to not only to prevent this, but to solve the things that are developing, you're only going to make it worse, and it's going to be costlier. But it is unfortunate that sometimes our government, from both sides of the aisle, move rather slow. They, they don't use technology, and the great advantage that we have in our educated knowledge, right? To better the systems that we have. They usually wait until something breaks down to fix it. It makes no
Hmm.
sense. It just don't make no sense. But the water crisis in California is really going to be devastating. A lot of the farms, particularly the small farms. Usually, I was talking to somebody that is a huge food distributor, and he was mentioned, because I asked that question. That was a concern that I have, and he pretty much told me, look, a lot of the big farmers, those huge ones, they pretty much have contracts that are going to secure them and are going to keep them okay. They have, I call it safety nets that the rich and powerful have built themselves, to protect their interest. So they have layers and layers of safety nets, and this is why when you see major crises taking place, it don't affect them, because immediately Congress moves to protect them. Then you have the Senate that moves to protect them, and they have all these regulations and all these contracts and all these things. So pretty much they're going nowhere. But the people that make the biggest sacrifices, those family owned farmers, those are the ones that stand to lose the most. And that is always uh, uh, a concern, because again, uh, the cost of all this is always passed down to consumers, to the working class, to the average person out there. And food insecurity has become such a big thing now. I was just recently, this week, this Friday actually, I was invited by our good friend, Susie Shannon, with Housing is a Human Right. And I was invited to a hearing on housing, homelessness, and hunger. So uh, it was it was uh, it was very important to be able to address these issues. We see the connection in all of them, but we also see the connection to climate change, and the situations that are developing right in front of our eyes. And we have to take bold actions. We can no longer half step. We can no longer tiptoe around the tulip, thinking or thinking that everything is going to be lovely and it's going to be all right. Because what is needed right now are bold actions.
Yeah, Carlos, and I think you're aware of this. The IPCC report that it is not officially released was leaked this past week, and one of the French news outlets got a copy of this, and they published an article with some highlights, and the key takeaways from this. I'll just read them from the article because they're important to share. Are that the first point is that with 1.1 degrees Celsius of warming clocked in so far, the climate is already changing, which is what we're seeing. We're seeing an aridification, a dryingification, of the Western region, of other parts, in parts of the global South. We're seeing this as well in terms of basically we're turning whole areas of land in which we would have rain and could grow things on are just turning into dry, useless land. And that is not, it's not like we're going from drought seasons and back into rain seasons. No, this is a permanent desertification going on. Okay, so that's a result of just 1.1 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So like, mid to late 19th century carbon, CO2 levels in the atmosphere. That's what that means. A decade ago, scientists believed that limiting global warming to 2 degrees Celsius above mid-19th century levels would be enough to safeguard our future. That goal is enshrined in the 2015 Paris Agreement, adopted by nearly 300 nations who vowed to collectively cap warming at well below 2 degrees Celsius and 1.5 degrees if possible. Now, the kicker here from this leak report is that on current trends, we're heading for 3 degrees Celsius at best. 3 degrees Celsius is an absolute nightmare for civilization. It's not sustainable. It's destructive. Societal collapse. These are all of the things that are baked into 3 degrees Celsius. Earlier models predicted we were not likely to see Earth-altering climate change before 2100, right? This is 2021, and we're already seeing it. I mean, we've been seeing it. But these were projected to happen, 80 years into the future from right now. But everything is turning out to be happening a lot faster. And then it goes on, but the UN draft report says that prolonged warming, even beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius, could produce progressively serious, centuries-long, and in some cases, irreversible consequences. Then it just says that for some plants and animals, it could be too late for us to even save them. There was a projected from the World Meteorological Organization, projected a 40% chance the Earth will cross 1.5 degrees Celsius by at least 1 year by 2026.
Wow.
Okay, within 5 years, we may see ourselves already above the Paris Climate Agreement at least one time in the year. Okay, so we are seriously on a bad trajectory right now. And it says even at 1.5 degrees Celsius, the warming conditions will change beyond many organisms' ability to adapt, and that not just coral reefs, not just lizards or anything. We're talking about people, our ability to adapt, because we are organisms as well. So what can we adapt to that? That is the question. We don't know. Indigenous populations in the Arctic face cultural extinction as the environment upon which their livelihoods and history are built melts beneath their snowshoes, right? Because the warming at the polar caps is happening much faster than as you go toward the tropics. So they are seeing the most warming. We're starting to see wildfires burn at a regular basis in the Arctic. That never used to happen. The polar caps are melting, right? And so the people who have lived for centuries in these regions, their customs are being stolen from them because of our reliance on fossil fuels. Of course, as we've talked about, Carlos, the emissions are increasing the fire seasons. The NPR reported that the new wildfires were at a 10-year high in the West right now. And of course, as we talked about food insecurity, it's contributed to food system losses. So yeah, this is serious. We have to prepare. The projections are not good. But the point that I need to make here, because a lot of people, they look at the model, they look at these reports and they say, well, that's it, we're doomed. There's no hope for us. We are going to go extinct. This planet is going to burn up. The Earth will continue without us. But you have to understand something, that these are projections, which means that they're only true if we continue on the path that we are on right now. Yes, we've already done a lot of damage. And yes, some of the things that are happening, we're not going to be able to change. We do have to accept that. We have to come to terms with the tragedy of that. But we can still maintain a society. Humans can still continue, but we have to transform the way our society operates. We have to think differently about the world and our place in the world. Humans now, we are changing nature. So we need to accept that we are not isolated from nature. We change nature, and if we're going to change nature, we have to do it in a way that is going to benefit nature and ourselves. We have to keep nature going in order for us to go, because if 70% of insects are dying, there is no hope for us. And that's the current trajectory. So we need an entire system change. And Carlos, that's why I mentioned financialization earlier, because financialization is actually our number one problem in actually doing anything about climate change, because it's completely disconnected from reality. Financialization has stopped innovation. If we had been allowed to innovate even within a free market, which we don't even have a free market system, we would have companies that would have been creating some kinds of technological solutions that could have overtaken the oil companies, right? We could already been moved to renewable energies, to solar power, to wind power, hydrogen fuel cells, whatever we could have done if we had just put the money to it. But because of this financialization that has overtaken, we are not able to do those things. So we are crippled right now because of the stranglehold of the financial sector, but we can still stop them. If we know who our enemies are, we can target them. And again, they're the same people who are preying on us in terms of our housing, in terms of stagnating our wages, in terms of putting people out on the streets because they can't pay these skyrocketing rents. So we know who the enemies are already. It's not just the oil companies. They're our problem, but it's also the banks. It's also the investors. We have to target them in any way possible. We need a drastic system change, and we need it now. And I feel like I'm pretty desperate at this point, because when I read these things, I see a lot of people losing hope. I see a lot of my generation losing hope, and younger. They don't want to have kids. They don't see a future for themselves. And that's not fair. Everybody deserves to feel like they have a future and that they can plan for a future, and they're not feeling like they can do that anymore. So we have to do something. We have to really go after these people and destroy them. That's my message. We have to destroy them, because this is all we have to risk everything if we want to have a future that is not what is being projected right now by the climate models.
Well, you hit it in the nail. We have to stop them. That's what we have to do. We have to stop them, because the fact of the matter is that these people, and I'm talking about the super rich, I'm talking about the ones that control the systems, have only one interest, and that is, to continue to fill their pockets. As a good Senator Bernie Sanders says, is that they never have enough. They want more and more and more. They have more already, but they want more. So
Yeah.
it's an endless things for them, for the super rich. Right now, we have Bill Gates that pretty much bought, all the mid states, all the farms out there. He owns a lot of this stuff. It's all about control for these people.
Yeah,
And
Carlos, that's an example of financialization, because he's rent seeking. He's going to buy up all this farmland, and has already bought up all this farmland, because he's going to rent it out to farmers.
right,
Farmers are not going to own the land anymore. They're just renters. This is feudalism. This is what Yanis Varoufakis calls techno-feudalism. And that's the state that we're in. We're no longer in a capitalist society. People talk about late-stage capitalism. No, capitalism is dead. We live in a new society called techno-feudalism, in which these tech
yes,
corporations are taking over, these investors are buying things up, and we are just borrowing the land from them. We are just renting everything from our lords. So this is techno-feudalism, and we need to understand the economy, the situation that we're living in. It's a new world. It's a new world, and it's not good for the environment. It's not good for us. But please continue.
right. But when you see police departments being funded more than any other departments agencies within a government, whether it's local or state or even nationally, when you see all this stuff, police departments exist to protect the rich.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing, is to protect the rich, to protect their interests.
Mm-hmm.
All this military might is not for the benefit of the people, as they claim that this is, to keep our freedoms and this and that. You know, it's not true. It's like, it's a mirage that they put in front of us, because the reality is that those forces exist to protect these very wealthy people, those systems that they have created. And we see that when we have the mass mobilization of police department against the unhoused, not because they care about them, but because they are protecting the rich, all those wealthy people that, they see this as a threat to their properties, to the
Mm-hmm.
value of their properties.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
all those things are connected. But Margaret, going back to your point and going back to this report that came out, on the climate and the projections that exist, and us as an activist, I can tell you this, that it's easily to get discouraged sometimes when you see these very bad things happening in front of us. But what gives me hope is that I see a lot of people engaged. See a lot of people asking questions. I see people concerned. I see people participating, and they want to participate. And that is exactly what we need to keep doing, because if we are going to overcome any of these issues, whether it's water, the water crisis, climate change, housing, homelessness, any of these issues that we talked about, is if we are going to change any of those, is by participation of the people. Of the people. You gotta get engaged. Don't disengage. I know that it's hard. It's hard because sometimes we see how enormous these problems are, and we think that we are not making any change, but we are actually making change. People, you say this a lot, Margaret. You encourage people to run for office. That is exactly the stuff that we need to be doing. We need to run for office, because if we are going to change any of these policies, it's going to be done from the inside. So I particularly work with in the inside of the system, if you will. I talk to politicians. I talk to politicians that I don't agree with, that they have a totally different mindset. But if we are not there to influence, to speak in behalf of the people, then we pretty much are left in the outside. We have to go on the inside. We have to go to those meetings. We have to go to city council meetings. You have to get involved in neighborhood councils. Those things are important, because this is where some of the changes take place. And then you start educating yourself as to how bad these politicians are. And then that encourages people to say, you know what, I'm going to run for office. That's what they're scared of the most, is when young people rise up, and they put themselves, in positions of change by running for office. So we do encourage you to run for office. If you've been contemplating this, get involved, participate, go to meetings, seek out those groups that are focus groups. There's people that are fighting for all these issues that we talked about. There are people that like to do research. Well, use those skills to help those groups that are already fighting, so that they can have more tools to be able to fight these forces that are destroying us.
Yeah.
So those are the steps that we need to be taking.
Yep. I agree. We have to do anything and everything we possibly can. Run for office, protest, knock down, break some windows, maybe, but because we don't have enough time. We have to take this seriously, and we have to act like the house is on fire, like Greta Thunberg says. We have to say our house is on fire. This is an emergency. What would you do if your house was on fire? Would you just
Exactly.
sit there? Would you just sit there sipping your coffee like that meme, the dog meme? This is fine. This is fine. And while your skin is burning off? No, of course not. You'd be running out. You'd get the hose. You'd try to put the fire out. You'd call the fire department. You know, your neighbors would come and try to help you put water on the fire. Right? This is it. We literally have a fire and it's burning down our house. So we
Right.
have to change it. We have to stop this fire.
And if we see these fires, a mile away, common sense tells you, it can happen to me. So we have to clean up our area, right? We have to take preventive measures. And this is exactly what is not being done. They see that there's a water crisis. Politicians see these things. They saw that there was a housing crisis developing. They saw that the numbers were going up on people falling into homelessness, and they did nothing. They sat on their behinds and allow these numbers to grow, allow the fire to continue. Now, their houses are being threatened, their communities are being threatened, and all of a sudden they wake up, like Alex Villanueva. Where has he been past 3 years? He's concerned about the unhoused population. Why now? Because his time for re-election is coming up. All of a sudden, he's going up and down. Oh my God, we got to clean this thing up. A message for Alex Villanueva: clean up your act. You need to clean up your own act before you try to clean someone else's community. Clean up what you got hired to do. Clean up the sheriff department.
Yeah, such a corrupt sheriff department, and under investigation, under a federal investigation right now. I hope that they find out what's really going on there, and that this department gets taken over by the federal government, because it's absolutely corrupt. The violence that they commit, not just against the unhoused, but also people in prisons, is just disgusting.
And
Carlos.
our brown communities that are being terrorized because a lot of these sheriffs have used such a force of brutality against people of color, and they go out there killing the unarmed citizens, and again he protects them, and this is exactly why he got elected, because a lot of people saw the old sheriff as one that did nothing, and he actually run to clean up house, and he has failed to do that miserably. But look, we did a lot of talking on him. But Sunday, beautiful Sunday out here in Southern California. We want to thank everybody for being with us this morning, and thank you for sharing the videos. It's important for us to keep spreading anything that is out there that will educate the public. And we take no political stand, right or left. We stand for the people. That's who we fight for. But we do encourage you to participate, to get involved. July 24th, mark your calendars, here in Southern California, in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, my hometown. We are going to be having a Medicare for All March. It's a national call to action. There's already 31 cities that are involved in this, and we are helping organize the march here in Hollywood for Medicare for All. So mark your calendars. We want you to participate. July 24th is going to be a good day for us to be on the streets, bringing attention to the fact that millions of people have no access to a doctor.
Yeah, totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Okay, don't get me started on that, because I'm gonna have to use that bad Biden card again on that one. But Carlos, thank you so much. It's been such a fantastic hour with you. I wanted to close out with an interview with John Lennon that I think really ties in very well to everything that we've been talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the screen here. And let's see. Okay. Let me make sure the audio is good. All right.
Toronto welcomes the Plastic Auto Band. Give peace a chance. Give peace a chance.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. And I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12, way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time, but now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends. If anybody can put on paper what our government and the American government, etc., and the Russian, Chinese, what they are actually trying to do, and what they think they're doing, I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane, but I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it. Every country's had a violent revolution for one reason or the other. Not one of them has the freedom we're all talking about. So we're saying give peace a chance, like nobody's ever done it before. And it's not a matter of, we're not thinking in terms of 10 years. We're thinking in terms of peace forever, And everybody's talking about now. I want peace now. We can get peace now if we want it now. And the left wing talk about giving the power to the people. Anybody knows that the people have the power. All we have to do is awaken the power in the people. The people are unaware. It's like they're not educated to realize that they have power. They put the politicians in power. They vote for the local mayor. The people do it. But the system is so geared that everybody believes that just the father will fix everything. The father being the government. Government will fix everything. It is all government's fault. Shake your fist at the government. Well, we are the government. The people are the government, and the people have the power, but we must try and make them aware of this. And Yoko was telling me about this great old ancient Chinese book, which tells you how to fight a battle, and it says the battle is always lost within the castle, like America's falling within, not from the commies coming. Yeah. It's falling apart inside. And this book on how to fight the good fight says that never have every door shut. The enemy then will. Everybody's going to come round and attack. But if you leave one door open, you know where they're going to come in, and then you get them. So intuitively, we're doing that. And we leave a door open. They're so busy shouting about haircuts and genitals and naked and long hair that they concentrate their ammunition there. We know where it comes from, and we get on with the job of selling or doing whatever we're doing. Yeah. And I believe that. You leave the door open, man, and that's where the door they'll come in, As a Beatle, we made it, and there was nothing to do. We had money, we had fame, and there was no joy. And then I met Yoko, and she was making it as an avant-garde artist, and we both tried to find something we had in common, a common goal in life, because she couldn't rock and roll with me, and I couldn't avant-garde with her. I mean, we can, but that's what we thought at the time. So we decided the thing we had in common was love, and from love came peace. So we decided to work for world peace.
And how do you do that?
So anyway, if anybody wants to watch this clip in its entirety, it's John and Lennon and Yoko Ono Wars Over if you want it. It's about 10 minutes long. And I think not much has changed, right, Carlos? Not much has changed.
Not much changed.
These are powerful words, but things have changed, but not much in the essence of the fight that we have. We're still fighting the same battle.
We have insane people running the country, right?
Yep.
4 years of insanity. And people celebrate that insanity because they themselves are falling into insanity, So, look, get involved, people. We love you guys. We want to give a shout out to our amazing organizers out there who day in, day out make sacrifices in behalf of the people, in behalf of their communities. So many of you, too many for me to mention you all. But I would like to highlight today our good friend, Estefania Rebelon with Yes We Can World Foundation. There's some news that are going to be coming out soon. And she's going to be visiting the big bus in Southern California. that is a mobile school that has been operating. There actually, she's got 3 schools operating in Southern California, at the border, at the southern border, in Tijuana, Mexicali, and Juarez, uh, specifically working with migrant children. So we hope to have her on the show to talk about that, and the tour that is going to be happening in Southern California. I cannot wait to be able to share those good news in more details. But thank you from my end. I want to say thank you again to all those amazing organizers. We love you. We appreciate you. I see you. I see your hard work. I see your commitments to your community. I see your sacrifices. I see how you do it, even when there is no money, in any kind of way to be able to execute any of the plans that you have for your community. You do that out of your own pocket, out of the love you have for your community. So those sacrifices are well taken, and we are seeing you. Thank you so much, all of you.
Yes, thank you everyone. And I shared the link to the John Lennon Yoko Ono video that we played a clip from. So I hope that link worked because I had to type it out. And so I hope I typed it out correctly. But anyway, yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of the volunteers, to all the activists out there, everyone who puts their life on the line to make this world a better place, because that is the bottom line, is that this is our goal as humans, is to make this world a better place for everyone. Well, Carlos, I think we should end it on that message of love, as always. Love is peace, love is hope, and that's what we have.
And love overcomes everything. Anything negative, love overcomes it.
Mm-hmm.
So act by love, walk by love, speak with love, see love in others. Don't see the negative thing in others. It's easy to judge, but look at it as through the eyes of love, and you're going to act differently yourself, and you're going to start feeling different, when you move by love. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll be back next Sunday, as always, at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You've been watching Stand Up, Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. I've been your co-host, Margot Pines, and this is Carlos Marroquin, also your co-host here on this hour and every hour of this show. So please take care of yourself. Have a wonderful week. Get vaccinated if you haven't already. Excuse me, and keep wearing your mask, because that's what the World Health Organization is saying now. Even if you're fully vaccinated, wear your mask in public settings because of the Delta and the Delta Plus variants that are moving now through this country. Okay, everyone, we'll see you next time. Have a really, really good week, and thank you, Carlos, and thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in. Bye.
Goodbye.